So, kind of while things are settling over here, there's two things that came up that, again, we did not do a verbal check-in on worry, and we did not do a verbal check-in on your back hurting. But it's found, again, as priorities in resonance therapy because we're reading your field. So again, sometimes resonance therapy is verbal, and sometimes it's really important for people to verbalize, and if we had more time or a different setting, perhaps we would have discovered those things verbally. But it's really nice that you don't have to always do that, that the energy field will show you where the problem is. So that's something we, again, teach in class. So. How to read the energy field. So you stick with the number one priority, true in the name of the light. Okay, again, spleen looks done. I was just kind of checking. The other thing that we do is we do a lot of three-dimensional work. I was checking one angle and it wanted me to check another angle before it wanted me to quote-unquote like a little bit. So I'm not quite sure what will happen next. That's part of resonance therapy. You have to let go of outcome. But part of what I'm reading in Bonnie is to tell her that in Chinese medicine also spleen is earth. And you're, like you said, you don't necessarily want to leave Maui. And this is part of an earth that you do feel at home with. So your spleen would be affected by that too. It's kind of like, no, I don't want to leave this earth. So this place on earth anyway. So there's that part of your spleen is kind of crying a little bit too. It's like, yeah, absolutely makes sense. So it's more your spleen, because I'm paying attention to your spleen now and I'm actually hearing it talk. Sometimes you can hear different organs talk depending on what kind of senses you have. I can hear, I can see, smell, taste, and feel energy. So sometimes I'm actually tuning in and again, part of the class is to teach people how to open up their senses so that they can hear things. So anyway, I'm hearing your spleen crying. Some people will have these skill sets, and other people you need some training. And yet your heart is definitely involved as well, as you mentioned. It's true in the name of the light. I'm just back checking to make sure we're on track and not being distracted, or again, you don't get the healing. Because sometimes people make up stories in their head about why they're sick, but it's not really the reason. And then I don't want to pay attention to it because then I won't bring in healing. And we teach that in resonance therapy, only stay with priority so that they really get the healing they need. It's kind of like putting the bomb in the right place and destroying a whole bunch of stuff, like putting the bomb in the right place so the whole building collapses instead of just like going through a building with a sledgehammer and being very slow and maybe even not doing the right job. It's like let's collapse as much as we can in the shortest amount of time we can. So I'm staying with your energy field and checking for priorities. Your heart is still the priority. Some people definitely, the energy is coming through that people definitely miss you in Canada. And that's just an important piece of information for your energy field to know, is that there's actually people that miss you up there. Okay. Not quite sure why it's important to know, but it's partly your heart says healing to know that information.
Still nice to know.
Yeah, it is nice to know. And again, that can be balancing to know that piece of information as well. So energetically, in terms of resonance therapy, I'm supposed to look at your brain. I haven't quite left your heart yet, but your brain is showing up as important to look at. And on Maui, of course, you've had a lot of chatter in your head.
Yes. An incredible amount of chatter in my head.
So your brain's asking for a clearing of some of that chatter, so you can have more quiet. Make sense? Okay. So we're clearing the brain. There's lots of ways to clear the brain. Oh my goodness. So just in terms of sharing information, because I know you're interested in this, see what I see, it's part of your question, is that your brain really wants to stay here. It's like your brain wants to pop out of your head and stay on Maui.
Yes, it does. Not surprising.
So it's just showing me that. It's not necessarily here or there in terms of resonance therapy, but for some reason it's giving me that image. It could be important, it could not be important. I'm not sure. I always check, treat them with light. What are we supposed to do with this piece of information? But the main thing is, again, to get you healed. Oh. So this is definitely not a typical session. I mean, and no session is typical if you're in resonance with somebody. You know, everyone has their individuality and you have to pay attention to their individuality, but part of your brain literally wants to pop out and on the earth and suck the information out of the earth here for knowledge before it kind of goes with you. So it's still trying to get as much as it can from this land. So I'm kind of helping support that process of your brain, your head, to gather as much information as you can before you leave, so that you can feel more grounded from this earth as well, even if you're leaving. And more from a head perspective, not necessarily a body perspective, but a head perspective. Because your head, it seems, is very important to be here in Valley. Make sense?
Yeah, absolutely.
Do you want to say more?
I don't really know.
Sometimes in resonance therapy we're supposed to ask, and if the answer, sometimes you can say no. So, and that's another legitimate thing in resonance, at least I'm supposed to ask. And then sometimes there's like, no, great, then I can move to the next step. Because it's like, sometimes it's a brain clearing. It's going to clear your brain, but also acknowledge whatever is going on in your body is important. And if there's something that we need to pick up on, either psychically or verbally, or with other senses, then we do that. Your spleen looks way more balanced now. Your head is looking more balanced. Objectively, your eyes are clearer, they're wider. So I'm just kind of noting that part for the camera because people can't see so well. But you're like, literally the white part of your eye is much clearer. Cleaner. Like again, you're going to start seeing in the beginning, see, nothing's ever lost, even though we're going kind of fast. In the beginning, we talked about this part of your grounding and we had to get your own information. Now, your eyes will process your information a lot better and not necessarily be like, oh, other people's information. It's like you're going to see your information. Yeah. And that is true in the name of the world. So. Any questions about the session?
No, but I did get some information.
Okay.
Share.
Yes, please.
I feel like there's a lot of wisdom on this head, and I feel like I should say that out loud.
Okay. You want to make sure I hear it?
Yes. I just got a message that there's a lot of wisdom in this land, and that it would be beneficial for people to know that it's actually very healing and very grounding.
Great. So technically, if we're doing a private session, I'd say you're cooked.
Really?
Pretty much. There's lots of subtle layers potentially I could start digging into, but you just clicked into a big piece of information, and so then it becomes time to percolate that information. And then, potentially down the road, there might be time for another session as well. So technically, in terms of resonance therapy, there's 3 ways to do an appointment. 1, you choose. 2, we energy check it. Or 3, sometimes people are like, well, I have a budget, once a month would be great, or once a week, or, whatever people can afford. So sometimes it's budget oriented, but some people really check when the energy is to come back. And so that's part of being in resonance too, is like, as practitioners, sometimes you don't know when somebody should come back. But you can always test when is the most appropriate and highest time for somebody to come back. And there's a whole lecture we do on that in resonance therapy, and sometimes even the time of day is important. Down to the minute. Like, I'm trying to think, looking for my schedule. I think I had an appointment on, it was 2 days ago, and they needed the appointment to be at